We've got a lot to talk about today, but we have a very important guest and want to make sure we utilize the time as best we can and hopefully not have any technical difficulties. I believe we have Utah State Athletic Director Diana Sabau on the line. Diana, are you there? Oh, nope, sorry. I had your mic turned off. You there, Diana? Sorry.
I sure am. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Okay, and we're not hearing any echoes. I know we were having that before you came on. Is that good?
I don't hear anything. I'm good. I mean,
okay.
I hear you. I don't hear
All right.
you.
Okay. We were worried about that coming on. This is right before the interview. So
we're good to go.
Thank you.
All right. We're absolutely, we're thankful to have you on. And I guess let's just get right into this. Very exciting time for Utah State, obviously getting in to the Pac-12. The announcement made official yesterday. And I kind of just want to go back to, I guess it was around the 23rd was when things were kind of getting signed and figured out. Can you just kind of walk us through what that process was like, or maybe even before that with, the Pac-12 approaching you guys, or maybe vice versa, as opposed to getting this done?
Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate this. Is a monumental moment for Utah State, for our athletics department, and really for this prideful valley. So excited to be able to talk about it. Seems like our fan base is thrilled, over the moon. And, we knew coming into conference realignment, it's been a topic that's been talked about for probably 12 to 18 months now. And one thing is for certain in college athletics right now, change is every single day. And, I think we saw that even this morning with the UNLV quarterback saying, I'm taking a redshirt year, right? So we have to be nimble and we have to be ready. And one of my jobs is to make sure that we're future-proofing us for the future, and valuing the current and the present against what it will look like in the future. And part of that was assessing what is the best and the most competitive conference for Utah State. It's been a process. And because I don't want to negotiate against the conference or against ourselves right now, because the Pac-12 is still filling out its membership, I really look forward to us pulling back the curtain and talking about all the steps along the way and who is a part of what. But today probably won't be the day we do that.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I understand there's still kind of things in flux with other Mountain West institutions. But maybe walk us back just a little bit. I know there's a lot of people are looking at what's going on with the Pac-12 and the Mountain West and just throwing up their hands, wondering why haven't these two conferences just merged? And maybe there's still a point where that could happen, but what's your assessment of that question? Why haven't they just come together fully?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there's conversations that are always happening with various conferences. Should there be a merger? Should there be a reverse merger? Should there be a scheduling alliance with a different conference from a different part of the country? What makes, intercollegiate athletics that much stronger? I think we all want to build things. We don't want to, rip things apart. So being a part of the Mountain West and respecting everything that came with that, it was a very difficult decision to look a different direction and to look at and embrace the Pac-12, but it was the right decision at the right time for Utah State. We wanted to make sure that our student athletes have achieved great things. And we know from the past that Utah State has maybe not had the most successful conference realignment or expansion when it's had the opportunity, but no matter where it ends up, Utah State has always won. And so we're always going to be a competitor. But I wanted to make sure that for all 16 sport programs, we would have opportunities more than just an automatic bid for a tournament or postseason championship, that we would be in a league that would have automatic bids for multiple sports so that our student athletes could always have the opportunity to compete at the highest level. And that's what we really want every day for them because they're working so hard. We're making a new competitive and comprehensive investment in all that we're doing for our student athletes. This past year, we were able to pull more money aside for nutrition and budget more money for their travel. And then in June, when we launched our Reach and Rise campaign, that was very appealing to the Pac-12 conference because it proved to them that we're investing in athletics comprehensively. And when you are competing with schools that are like-minded and land-grant institutions, those commonalities become really, really important. So, of course, when you look at our academics, we're always in the top tier, 1, 2, or 3 in the Mountain West. So we know that we'll take our academics to a new height within the Pac-12 also.
So you mentioned some of the things that were maybe appealing to the Pac-12, and like when the initial news of Boise State and Colorado State and those schools making the jump to the Pac-12, there's kind of the assumption that Utah State wasn't going to be going to the Pac-12. I guess where were those assumptions kind of end up? Obviously, those were wrong because Utah State obviously is getting in. Where were those assumptions going wrong, and that we thought Utah State wouldn't be making this move?
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys that question as you were asking me that, because like we always say, I believe. So why not us? Why not believe Utah State? And so I'm always going to take that position. I want to make sure that we're going to pressure test something, and we're going to bring value to something that might already be existing. And then we're going to ask ourselves, how do we get there? What opportunities do we have? We have had so much support from the entire state of Utah, this great state, so much support from the Wasatch Front, from the Valley, from right here in Logan. People wanted this to happen. So I don't know where that assumption came from, or maybe just the past history of the challenges that Utah State have had when it came to conference realignment or conference expansion.
So I've got a question about voting opportunities, both in the Mountain West and now going to the Pac-12. There was some report that the Pac-12, the initial two schools invited the four out of the Mountain West initially, and then before they took their next steps, they wanted those four to be involved in the discussions about where they would go next. Now that Utah State is part of that mix, does USU have a voice in next targets? Because they still need to expand to get at least to 8 schools, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something that's really nice when you look at where you're sitting currently and where you will be sitting, it's a collaborative feeling. And we are a recent adopter, and obviously we won't be competing until 2026, but it is nice to have that place at the table and be a part of those conversations.
And then coupled with that, I guess the Mountain West still exists as a conference, and there's still schools that are there.
You guys are still a part of it, obviously,
right? You're
too.
still a part of that. So I would assume, does Utah State still have voting rights within this construct of the Mountain West until 2026?
Well, that is a great question. And because the Pac-12 is still fulfilling its membership, and because the Mountain West is in a transition period as well, I don't want to overstep and talk through that yet, because those nuances will probably still be revolving and be revealing to itself in the future, for sure.
Okay, that's fair. Obviously, there's a lot of this stuff going on, so I know you can't talk about everything. But kind of want to ask about the financials of this, because there's questions about there's the exit fees and all that. Can you talk about the financial health of USU as far as being able to pay those, or if the Pac-12 is going to help out? How much you're able to talk about that as far as where all this money is going to come from, because it is a big chunk of change.
You are absolutely right. It is a big chunk of change, and we don't take that lightly. That's why we are tremendously grateful for the support that has been already shown and the support that we know that will be coming. But again, it will be a nice partnership, and USU would not have perhaps accepted the invitation if we were not pleased at what we were provided.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that answers the question. But the financial health of the university overall for athletics, I know you'd mentioned that this spring the Reach and Rise campaign was launched. There haven't been any major facility projects in quite some time, but just the stresses of operating an athletics program to still compete at a very high level, there are constraints that exist there. But how would you assess kind of the financial health overall of the athletics budget for Utah State and where it still needs to go to compete in the new Pac-12?
Oh, absolutely. We are going to take our game up a bit. Like we ask a lot of our student athletes, so we're going to ask a lot of our staff and of our Aggie Nation to help us get there. If you were at our event when we launched our Reach and Rise campaign, it was really exciting because we had our soccer program highlighted, and we talked about their emerging success. We didn't know how successful they were going to be back in June, but look at them now, right? Unbelievable. And so with that becomes the opportunity to grow that facility. So for the fall of 2025, we're investing in lights so that our soccer team can host a postseason regional. and beyond, that we will have a new drainage system, new sand, new turf, a little bit better absorption system, a little bit better compaction, so there won't be the pressure on our student athletes' legs and knees like there are now. And so that will be phase one. Then phase two, we'll be fundraising for new grandstands, locker rooms, press box, elevated seating, and then like maybe loge concepts, and those are still in the works. And then phase three will be a proper ticketing office, a concession stand, and a merchandise stand. So we're meeting the needs of our programs by investing comprehensively. We need to do some immediate fundraising for our volleyball team that's been hugely successful. And quite frankly, their locker room is underwhelming, and we need to modernize that. And then when you look to the Pac-12 and the success and the legacy of those schools, and thank you to Oregon State and Washington State for welcoming us into their history and tradition. You know, our football stadium is great, but our scoreboards are original to the construction, and so are our lights. So we really need to look at everything has a life cycle and a lifespan, and we need to look at what that means to modernize and future-proof that as well, because it's not just for our student athletes, it's for our fans, and our fans deserve the best because they support us so well.
I know we're running tight on time. I have one more question. It actually comes from one of our texters, just wondering, like, when the Pac-12 announced those 4 schools, I guess, what was kind of your response? Like, was that when you went to was that kind of when this started, you reaching out to the Pac-12? Or I guess, I don't know how much you can speak to that. Is what was kind of the university's response to seeing those initial 4 schools going?
Well, it wasn't a surprise to anyone. There was conversations long before I got to Utah State. I believe San Diego State tried to exit the Mountain West previously. Maybe you guys can recall that better than I can. So none of that was a surprise. But as I indicated before, we're never going to be caught flat-footed with my leadership, and we wanted to make sure that we were ready and poised. So I'm not going to give you the exact timeline right now, but I promise you when it's appropriate, we'll sit down and diagram it all out, and you can make it fun for your listeners.
And no problem. We'll look forward to that. Obviously, an exciting time, and someday we'll have a chance to catch up.
Historic time for Utah State athletics. Diana Sabau, thank you so much for your time, and a big exciting day for Utah State athletics.
Are you guys excited?
Yes. It's very exciting.
I said this earlier today. I never thought in my lifetime that I would be saying Utah State is in the Pac-12. But here it is.
We have had a lot of emails and phone calls and outreach from community members and investors and donors that had the same sentiment, that are prideful, that are we have so much pride here in the Valley, and they're so excited to be a part of the Pac-12 and just what that means for recruiting and for the future of our athletics program. So thanks for sharing in that. Appreciate what you guys do, and look forward to seeing you soon at maybe a volleyball game. I don't know. We have a lot of sports this weekend at home.
Yeah, I've got a lot going on.
Busy weekend.
Definitely.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Diana Sabau, for coming on. We're going to go ahead and go to break, and we'll be back after this here on the Full Court Press.